26 years ago, I filled in my first disability benefit form and I was turned down. I was bedridden, so I qualified, but I didn't know how the system worked and I was too unwell to fight it. Years later, I applied again and I got it. The difference wasn't my health, it was how I approached the process. So if you're about to apply, here's the first thing to know. The system doesn't assess your diagnosis. It assesses how your condition affects your day-to-day life. If you get that right, everything gets easier. In this video, I'll help you prepare for the emotional toll, avoid the timing gap, get the right support, and answer the form in a way that they actually understand. I'm in the UK, so I'll use PIP as the example, but the principles I'm sharing apply in most countries. Before we get into how hard this can feel, I want you to be completely clear on why it's worth it, because you'll need that reason to hold on to. These benefits exist for one purpose: to help you live more independently and cover the extra costs of being unwell. And once it's awarded, nobody checks how you spend it. So it can pay for things that genuinely help you, like support at home so basic life doesn't wipe you out, having shopping delivered so you don't crash for 2 days afterwards, or therapeutic support that reduces pain and gives you some quality of life back. For me, it meant things like private physio and being able to eat well, get fresh fruits and vegetables and buy organic. And this was at a time when both my husband and I had to give up work because I was so unwell and he was caring for me. And on that note, it's worth knowing that if someone looks after you at home, they may also be able to claim a carer's benefit alongside yours. This disability benefit isn't a handout to feel awkward about. It's a tool that helps you start rebuilding your life on your terms. Now I'm going to show you the part nobody warns you about, so it doesn't catch you off guard halfway through. When you live with fibromyalgia, you cope by focusing on what you can do. We don't sit here and stare at our symptoms all day. We'd never get through life if we did. But this process of application asks you to do the opposite. It shines a spotlight on everything that you struggle with. For some people, it's the first time they've written it down in black and white, and that can feel brutal. When I filled mine in, I felt guilt and shame. I felt weak. I wanted to cry the whole way through from looking at how limited my life had become. I'd never really paid attention to that before. But I want you to hear this clearly. That reaction isn't weakness. It's a completely natural response to being asked to list your hardest days on paper. So if you do this and you feel wobbly or ashamed or grief-struck, it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're human. And unfortunately, I want you to be aware that this may be part of the process for you. Let me give you a simple way to protect yourself while you do it, because this matters. Don't do the form in one big heroic sitting. Try this instead. Set a timer for 15 or 20 minutes. Do one small chunk, maybe one small question. Stop. Drink some water, have a snack, do something that calms you, and then come back later or the next day. Treat it like pacing for your nervous system, not a test that you have to pass in one go. Say this to yourself like a mantra. This is just for the form. You put it down, you get what you're entitled to, and then you let it go. Now I'm going to give you the single most valuable tip in this whole video because it changes the entire experience. If you take one thing from today, take this. Do not fill this form in by yourself. In almost every country, there are people whose job it is to help you with this. In the UK, that's Citizens Advice Bureau, welfare rights advisors, and disabilities charities often have a support person. They do these forms every single day, and more importantly, they understand the language that the system responds to. And honestly, it's so much easier to talk to a kind person asking you those questions and speaking about what you're going through than to sit alone in front of a blank page. It also helps hugely with the anxiety, because when you're relying on this income, it can feel like your whole future sits on whether you phrase the sentence correctly or not. I remember worrying about everything, even how I was writing my name down. I was terrified of making one mistake on the form. When someone experienced sits with you, that pressure lifts. And if you say, I'm not sure how to answer this, they'll help you word it so it reflects your reality. And some of them will actually fill in the form for you. One thing to expect, there may be a waiting list for the appointments with those welfare workers, and that's normal. So don't worry about that. Getting help isn't cheating, it's the smart and kind way to do it. Here's a quick checklist because this will help you feel more assured before you even sit down with the form. So gather these things in one place. A list of your conditions and roughly when the symptoms started. And if you want more detail about the form itself, I'll give you information at the end on how you can get that. You also need to have your current medications and dosages. So I normally get a repeat prescription list whenever I pick up my medications. So just a copy of that will be fine, or an original of that, because we tend to get them quite often. List any treatments that you've tried, even if they didn't work. So what you're showing here is that you have been having treatment. So you might have had physio, you might have had some medication, you might have seen a therapist, but that is part of the proof that you have this condition. And then list the contact details of professionals you've seen, because this will be asked on the form. So there'll be your GP, perhaps a physio, a pain clinic, hospital, doctors or nurses. And then finally, 2 or 3 real examples of what a bad day looks like for you. You don't need perfect paperwork, you just need enough that you're not trying to remember everything while you're emotionally flooded and trying to complete this form. And now I'm going to show you how to start your claim so that the waiting list never works against you. In the UK, you start in one of 3 ways: by phone, by post, or in some areas online. Check your postcode on the .gov.uk website and their PIP page. Either way, step 1 is simply calling or going online and saying, I'd like to apply, please send me the form. Your condition needs to have affected you for at least 3 months in order for you to get that form, and be expected to continue for at least 9 more, which with fibromyalgia is pretty usual. And the process is about symptoms, not paperwork. It's about the difficulties you've been living with. When the form arrives, there is a deadline, and it's usually a month. If your support appointment falls after it, do not panic and rush the form yourself. Phone PIP and ask for an extension because you're getting help. They give extensions all the time. I had one, and it won't count against you. And here's the big reassurance: your payments are worked out from the date you request the form. That is your claim start date. So all the time it takes to go through the process, and when you are successful, payments will be backdated to that date. That's why a decision often comes with a lump sum of back pay. So start the claim early, then take your time with the form. Now I'm going to show you the one rule that makes the difference between what we know and think we need to say compared to what they actually want to hear. Here's the mistake I made the first time round, and I see people make it constantly. I thought, well, I can do that sometimes. So I wrote that I could, and I was refused. Because these forms don't really assess what you can do once on a good day if you push through. They assess whether you can do things reliably. So every time you answer a question, you quietly run this check. Can I do it safely? Can I do it repeatedly, to a proper standard, in a reasonable time? If the honest answer is no on most days, then no is what goes on the form. And a useful rule of thumb: if your hard days are more than half the time, don't average yourself into looking fine. Describe the reality for your worst days, because being seriously unwell for at least half of your week is a disability. So the lesson here is to answer for your hard days, not your best ones, and be honest about what you can do reliably. Now I'm going to talk about 2 traps to watch for because they're so common with fibromyalgia. First, downplaying. A lot of us have spent years not being believed, so we've learned to sound reasonable and minimize. This is not the time for that. You are not writing to protect someone else's comfort. Second, writing like you are coping. If you write, "I manage, I can sometimes," they don't see the cost. They don't see the flare afterwards, the crash, the days you lose. The form can't read between the lines. You have to put the impact on the page. Now I want to reassure you what happens after you send it, because uncertainty is where the anxiety grows. Once you send the form back, the next stage is usually an assessment. That might be by phone or in person. And I'm not going to pretend that feels great. The build-up to that call or visit can be truly stressful. But here's what I want you to remember. Being asked questions doesn't mean that they think you're lying. It's a standard stage of the process. And the best way to walk into that stage feeling steadier is the same way you fill in the form. Don't do it alone if you can help it. Get advice, get support, take notes, give yourself time. In my experience, I would get really anxious waiting for the appointment, but each time the person on the other end was friendly and understanding. For this appointment, have a copy of your form or the answers you gave with you. You will be asked some of the same questions. This call is to confirm what you say matches your form and sometimes maybe get a little bit more detail. After that, you'll get a decision letter. When, and not if, it's a yes, they will send the money to your bank account quite quickly, within days. In my case, the money arrived before the decision letter. That letter will also detail how long the award of PIP is for. It can be 1 year, or with the fibro type conditions, it can be for 3 years. In the last year, they will send you a review form with a deadline. Use the same process for that. And if by chance it's a no, that is not the end of the road. A lot of people are refused first time and then succeed at appeal, especially with support, because the issue often isn't that you didn't qualify, it's that they didn't understand your day-to-day reality from what was written. So a refusal is information. It tells you what they didn't understand so that you can clarify it. Now, before you talk yourself out of applying, because it all sounds like so much, I want to show you why this is far more possible than the internet makes it sound and that others may have told you. I was driven to make this video because I kept seeing the same message in fibromyalgia groups online. It's hard. It's so difficult to apply. You'll never get it. And yes, it can be hard emotionally, but you'll never get it is simply not true. In the UK right now, fibromyalgia is one of the most common conditions people receive PIP for. Over 100,000 people are receiving it at this very moment. Assessors see it all the time. So this isn't about proving your illness exists. It's about describing clearly how it affects you day to day, which is exactly why support with wording matters so much. And something reassuring about life after you're awarded it. Fibromyalgia includes good months and bad months. But you don't have to stay frozen at your worst to deserve it. In fact, working on your health and independence is part of what it's for. Support, adaptations, therapies, help at home, whatever you need to have better days. That's what the PIP is for. And when that decision letter and that back pay arrive, the relief is enormous. I will never forget it. So the lesson here is this is hard, but it's absolutely doable. If you're struggling to manage, apply and make it easy on yourself by getting support. So that's the honest picture. Yes, it can be emotionally hard, but you now know the part that most people don't. It isn't the form that's the biggest challenge, it's facing your condition, and you can make the whole process easier because you don't have to do it alone. So here are your steps. Start the claim so the clock starts from day one. Get support, citizens advice or welfare rights advisor if you can, so they can help you complete the form. If you're completing it yourself, pace yourself. Take it in short chunks. Protect your nervous system. You don't want to get a flare while you're going through this process. Answer based on what you can do reliably on your worst days, not your best. And then let the process take the time it takes. Now, if you want a part 2 for this video, tell me which bit of the following you want next. Is it the assessment, what to expect and how to prepare for it? The whole form and each question and examples of answers? Or what to do if you're refused the first time? So just pop in the comment assessment, form or refused, and I'll make the next video on this topic based on what you need. Now, if you are going to complete the form yourself, because this process can stir up a lot of feeling, I've made a video on managing the anxiety that comes with living with fibromyalgia. It can help you through the process as well, and I'll put it right here. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care of yourself and be well.